Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Morning Live. Now, the cricket gods did not look favourably towards the Proteas once again at the ICC T20 Cricket World Cup as rain got the final call yesterday as the Proteas shared a point with neighbours Zimbabwe. To help us talk about this and expectations moving forward in this T20 World Cup, we are joined by cricket analyst Lunga Kupiso. Lunga, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Sports on Morning Live.
Good morning, Vasila. Good morning to them.
Now, Lunga, pretty unlucky for the Proteas yesterday, feeling quite hard done, effectively just 3 hits away from securing a victory. Is there anything that the team could have actually done differently?
I mean, weather is weather, and the local farmers in Hobart will say thank you to the rain gods. So it is unfortunate, and I think they did as much as they could to try and chase the victory, and in the end it wasn't to be.
Indeed, and we look at what this means for South Africa now moving forward, having had to share a point with Zimbabwe. We have to effectively get a victory against Bangladesh, Pakistan as well as India. How do you see that working out for us moving forward?
So essentially what this means is the match against Pakistan is going to be a knockout fixture because Pakistan lost to India. And then we need to make sure that we do what we need to do against Bangladesh as well as India. And so all eyes and focus now move to that Pakistan fixture. Whoever wins that fixture moves on. Whoever loses comes home.
And it does really make it difficult, particularly if you look at the conditions in which the different teams used to prepare themselves for the World Cup. I mean, some went with similar conditions to what they're currently facing now in Australia versus South Africa, where we went and we played against India in India, which wasn't really a great build-up for us into the World Cup.
Well, I suppose there is, one side of the line that will say playing fixtures in India before the World Cup wasn't so smart. Also looking at the format that we were playing. But, the longer you go into the competition and the more you then come against the likes of India, if we progress into the next round, we play against other bigger cricketing nations. Perhaps, I say again, that time we spent in India under those conditions might just play to our advantage. I mean, look at the way that Quinton de Kock played in that opening 2 overs of yesterday's game against Zimbabwe. It's a sign of a player who's not afraid of the big moment. It was a sign of a player who wasn't being consumed by the weight of the moment. So let's wait and see when we actually get a full run at 20 overs with the Willow. I will say, though, that I think we bowled incredibly well, taking into consideration the limited overs that we had. Bowlers, typically, they will go into a fixture hoping that they'll get 4 overs and they know that they've got an over or 2 at best to get themselves into the context of the game. And yesterday, our guys hit their strides running. So it's not all doom and gloom as much as it is.
And you talk about the bowling attack for the South Africans. I mean, do we look at that and say, but we were up against a weaker batting team in comparison to what we're still likely to face moving forward in this World Cup?
Well, you're only as good as your last competitor, right? And because it's a Super 12 of a T20 World Cup, there's no longer a stronger or a weaker cricketing nation. I'd like to believe that everybody who's there, you face them expecting that you could lose the match. You face them wanting to do your best because you don't know what could happen. I mean, roles could have been reversed yesterday. We could have had 6 overs in and we were 3 runs behind Duckworth-Lewis. Constituting a match, and we would have lost against a weaker cricketing nation on paper. So, stronger cricketing sides, weaker cricketing sides with rain included, it all falls away unless you have the full lot of overs.
Lunga, we look at yesterday's performance, and this is something we can't really avoid at this moment, but we see the continuous remarks being made about Themba Bavuma. And I mean, what would you make of the performance yesterday? I mean, it was the rain that ended play.
Anybody who's going to scrutinize yesterday's play and say that one player deserves to be dropped, another should come in to replace another player, that person, typically speaking, isn't a sport following supporter, or they are fly by night. Because those who understand the nature of the sport, to understand the context of the game within the context of playing a 9-over T20 game, you will know that, it's not a normal situation. And so we let those people make noise, or at least I'd like to assume that that's what the team is going to do. They'll allow those noisemakers to make noise because that's what noisemakers do. For them, they move on to the next round, focus on what the job is at hand, and that is making sure that they're ready to take on Bangladesh, they're ready to face India, they're ready to take on Pakistan. We then look at the performances at the conclusion of the World Cup. So if you don't like the fact that Themba Bavuma is leading the Proteas, then maybe the World Cup is not for you to watch, because he is the captain, he's the person that's going to be leading, he's going to be the person that's leading the national side, whether you like it or not. The results, we look at the end, holistically across the board for everybody.
Indeed, and you speak now about we just look and focus into the next game against Bangladesh. In terms of the personnel and the team that was on the field of play, what changes, if any, would you like to see being made going into that clash?
I think because we didn't get the opportunity to see the betting side, be fully tested for the whole 20 overs, it is difficult for me to sit here and say, let's change 1 and bring in 3, let's change 5, move them up to 4. I believe we'll go in with the same side, allow the guys an opportunity to play their full 20 overs, and hopefully the rain stays away.
And as we would say, our fate is in our own hands going into the next clash on Sunday.
As always in a World Cup, it seems to happen there will be rain as part and parcel of our equation, and always our fate is in our own hands. We have to play well. We have to try and wrap up that Bangladesh game as quickly as possible. We have to try and score as many runs as possible if we are betting first. What that does is it influences our net run rate, and that becomes very important in scenarios where there are shared games. And we won't be the only side that will be affected by rain. We are playing in Australia against other nations who also have to play in the same conditions. Taking fate into our own hands means doing well in the short limited of time that you've been given.
Thank you so much, Lunga, for your time this morning. We will hopefully be catching up with you throughout the course of this ICC T20 World Cup.
Pleasure.
That is a cricket analyst, Lunga Kupiso, talking about the T20 ICC World Cup currently underway in Australia. Of course, South Africa having to share a point against Zimbabwe yesterday. Play there being stopped by the rain. And next up for the Proteas is Bangladesh, a crucial encounter, that 1-1 that South Africa needs to win if we are to progress.